welcome to the first ever episode of the Lollygaggers Fantasy Football Show. For those of you who are new joining us here, my name is Ari, aka Zang. I am the commissioner over on the Dynasty Baseball side and one of our GMs over on the Lollygaggers server. I'm actually not hosting this show. This is normally going to be hosted by the wonderful Ace Garcia. He, is obviously our commissioner over on this league, so he's going to be taking over hosting duties there. Certainly much more of a football guy than me as well, so he will definitely be able to handle that better. I'm, looking forward to sort of hopping over to the other side of the mic and co-hosting a little bit, adding in those color stats and whatnot that Ace usually does such a good job of doing over on our other show. But of course, as things happen, life got a little bit in the way, and so Ace is not available this week. Normally we're actually going to drop on probably Tuesdays. Occasionally it'll be a late Monday night or something like that. It's a little more in flex with this show rather than the baseball one where, things are happening every day there. With this, it's more of a weekly format as it is, but we'll, in general, be dropping on Tuesdays. We, are hoping to just sort of bring kind of what we did over on the baseball side this first season, getting to, do a little bit of a podcast and recap the matchups and all that stuff. It just, brings another element to the Dynasty experience, keeps everyone a little more engaged, and it's a good time. We'll use this kind of as my what do you call it? Sort of a hands-up moment. I am not as much of a football person as I am. I'm a baseball gal through and through. It is that is fully my sport, and I enjoy watching football. I love it. So please excuse any if I mispronounce a player's name or whatnot. I'm pretty locked in with baseball, and although I love football and I really enjoy the fantasy side, baseball is definitely my strong suit there. So another one of those reasons that obviously the fantastic Ace will be taking over duties because he's really locked in here, and I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job. Just to sort of give an overview of this, what this looks like, we'll do a segment called the Matchup Minute where we, go through and recap the matchups as they go. It won't be as much of a sort of day-to-day thing, but we will, roughly cover the timeline of it, highlight who scored pretty well, maybe some disappointing performances. After the Matchup Minute, we'll slide down to the standing segment where we'll, just cover the standings in the league, 1 through 12. Not that interesting this week, of course, with, either you're 1-0 or you're 0-1. It's a little bit of a binary system. But by week 2, once we have the pod fully up and running, it should be a good time. And that's always, an exciting segment to kind of dive into, where we're at and talk about how things could move. One interesting addition that we have over here that we don't have over on the baseball side, again, for you regular listeners, I know we have a lot of crossover, not everybody, so sorry to our just football people who are kind of hearing this. Oh my God, stop talking about the baseball side. I know. But that's the point of reference here. We are doing what we're just calling Team of the Week. Gosh, I tried to come up with an alliterative name, and I couldn't. I'm sure as soon as this is posted, I'm going to get some great ideas from you all. So it might only be called Team of the Week for this week, but we'll see how things go. It's just a look at, across the league in terms of guys who actually started. So this is not including guys who were benched or guys left on waivers, who were sort of the best performers at each position. And that is a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, flex, super flex, kicker, and defense. So a full team, just kind of looking at, how things go. And we will be kind of tracking how many appearances each player has on a Team of the Week. So that's something that we can, kind of track throughout the season. And oh my gosh, boy, Josh Allen has been on, 12 of the 17 teams of the week, something like that. Could even be more for a guy like Allen. But, just to kind of keep things in mind. And, it's interesting to track how people are doing. Next, we have the bench blunders segment, and this is again done a little bit differently where rather than just sort of having the top 3 to 5, biggest quote-unquote blunders of guys left on the bench, it's sort of who is the highest scoring guy on each team's bench, and that does give us a little bit of a moment to look at, because it's just one matchup a week and all that, just, one game for each person. So kind of get to look at each team and rather than across the league, but, who was it for each team? Wasted waivers, just a quick top 3. Who were the top 3 guys on the waiver wires who were left out there that, racked up the most points, playing it a little bit by ear in terms of quarterbacks, because obviously they're scoring the most. And, we've had a little bit of discussion about how tricky all the quarterback situation is. So I did just limit it to 1 this week. Normally there are going to be quite a few quarterbacks. Some weeks there might be one quarterback. Some weeks there might not at all. Some weeks, there might be, I don't know. That'll be sort of a feel it by ear thing. But yeah, who are sort of the top 3 scorers out there? And then finally just wrapping things up with next week's notes, where we get to preview a little bit of a look into next week, in this case, this week, which is already happening. The game's going on as we speak. But, as we said, normally this will be dropping on Tuesday. So that'll be a little bit of a preview ahead of time. And the nice thing is with this, we really do have some pretty good percentages. So, it kind of tracks out, who's projected to win, and so that can be good for shit talking and whatnot as we move forward. So let's get started with the matchup minute. We will start off with our first matchup, which is Al Martinet versus JMC. Didn't record any of those projections, which I just mentioned being so great coming into this week, but we will have those starting next week. Al Martinet had a good start on Friday. Butker scored him 10 points, but of course the big day was on Sunday. Al Martinet, he had a nice performance there with his local quarterback in Brock Purdy. We also saw Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt score 14 points for him. Purdy had 18 there. Cortland Sutton with 18. Big performer, though, was Zay Flowers with 28 points. Huge performance from Baltimore's wide receiver out there. Jordan Love did have a solid but unimpressive 15. And then on Monday, we did see Al Martinet with a nice 14 from Justin Jefferson there. Over there on JMC's side, however, we of course saw the aforementioned Josh Allen. He's going to be showing up here a lot, I'm sure. He scored 38 points on Sunday. Kyren Williams had 13 and Cam Little with 15. The Rams defense racked up a solid 12, but unfortunately Rome Odunze's 15 points on Monday would not quite be enough to wrap things up there, as Al Martinet did have a very impressive week. He did win the matchup 142.3 to 129.12 for JMC. So does have Al Martinet taking that opening matchup against JMC. Move down now to our next matchup, which was Ace Garcia versus Okie Sooner. Ace's week didn't start off quite how he had hoped. He did have the Eagles defense going on Thursday. They only racked up 4 points for him. A little bit of a disappointing performance from what I know is obviously a pretty well-respected, defensive core there. On Friday, however, Ace had a little bit of a hometown boost. We know he is a big Chargers fan, and Herbert racking up 27 and Ladd McConkey racking up 13 were very solid for him. Unfortunately, that would kind of be the highlight of the week, as it didn't go much further. Okie Sooner really started to come back on Sunday there when he had most of his guys going. Jaden Daniels racked up a strong 20 points with Chase Brown pulling in 13. Puka Nacua with 23. Great first week for him. And, an unimpressive, if solid, 10 points there from Mike Evans. This was an airtight matchup, but in the end, Okie Sooner did end up squeaking it out as 113.78 to 108.74 over there for Ace. So really, really tight win for Okie Sooner. Just about 5 points separating the two of them. So, when we come down to bench blunders, keep in mind 5 points certainly would have been enough probably on Ace's side to squeak that out. But that's kind of how fantasy football works. A lot of it, it's so much more about these, start sits and who you get right. In this case, Okie Sooner did end up taking the matchup. He's up 1-0 now on the season, and Ace is unfortunately down 0-1 on the season, as our commish is, he's, not to skip too far ahead, he's sitting in 11th place, which is where I sat in the Dynasty Baseball League for most of the season. So maybe it's just tradition that the, commish sits in 11th place. That's kind of our rightful position there. Sliding on down now to our third matchup, we have Bose versus Anna Kendrick, and things got started off really well for Bose on Thursday. Jalen Hurts racked up 24 points. You can expect that pretty regularly for him. Anna didn't have any Thursday, Friday games either, so obviously Sunday was the big one for them. Over on Bo's side, we had Kyler Murray putting up 18, which is unspectacular but solid. James Cook with 21, however, was a fantastic performance. James Conner with 14, Marvin Harrison at 18, and, Brock Bowers, who one of our better tight ends this week with 15. Pardon me. Over on Anna's side, Jahmyr Gibbs, a little bit disappointing with 15 there. Obviously you're not going to be upset about 15 points there, but top-end guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, you want a little bit more than that. Devonna Kane had 16 points there, and Khalil Shakir and George Kittle both racked up 12 for Anna, with Chris Boswell putting up 15 over there. It was tight coming into Monday Night Baseball, and Anna needed a big performance out of Aaron Jones, and although he did rack up 15 points, that would leave Anna still just under 2 points shy of Bose. This was another really close one. Bose scored 122.7 points, with Anna scoring 120.86. So, marginal differences. A start-sit certainly could have made the difference here, but Bose came out with the win, and a surprising twist. I would love to hear from Bose in the Discord. I don't know the story here. He benched a defense, didn't start any defense. I don't know if that was intentional on, maybe doubting Jacksonville and not being able to get another one in, or if it was just a mistake. But in any case, didn't end up biting Bose in the ass in the end. But we'll keep an eye out for that. And definitely Bose, let us know in the Discord what's the story there. Even if it's just you forgot to start it, didn't end up hurting you. So c'est la vie. Our fourth matchup this week is Mike versus KJ Lee. And things did not start out well for KJ Lee on Thursday Night Football. You're expecting a lot out of AJ Brown. 1 point, not a lot. That is not what you are looking for, unfortunately. But things would get a lot better for him on Sunday when Bijan putting up 24 points. Solid performance there. Great start from the running back. And Jackson Smith and Jigba with 19. Trey McBride and DK Metcalf with 12 points. Really nice, balanced performances there from KJ Lee. But it was dominance over on Mike's side. We saw Justin Fields put up 29. Who the hell saw that coming? Maybe not even Mike, not to put too much on him. Obviously a great fantasy player, but I don't think any of us saw 29 from Justin Fields. Ashton Janty had 12. See, here we are. Trayvon Henderson at 11 points. I do just the initials, and usually I've got it, but that one, I thought I had it with the Patriot, but no, not quite. CeeDee Lamb had 18, Chris Olave with 12, and Tyler Loop also with 12 from Mike over there. So pretty dominant performance, especially on that on that quarterback side. And lo and behold, it was two quarterbacks going up against each other on Monday Night Football. Mike had Caleb Williams. KJ Lee had JJ McCarthy. This was really to determine the matchup. It was damn close, but Caleb Williams and his 24 points would end up eking out the win against J.J. McCarthy and his 23. Mike did go in leading on that final day, so J.J. McCarthy would have needed to outscore him by about 4-ish, 5-ish points, and fortunately it wasn't quite enough. Impressive performances from both of the young quarterbacks there, but Mike did squeak out the win against KJ in this first week, 133.92 to just 130.62 over on KJ's side. Again, really close. Oh my gosh, I need to adjust my brain a little bit where, I'm used to recapping baseball where we're seeing 50, 60 point differentials. Like, yeah, this one wasn't too far off. We're seeing 3 points here, 4 points, 2 points. So it is obviously super close here, and, just wasn't quite there for KJ, but a close one against Mike, who we know is always a dangerous threat in fantasy. Lethal trader, definitely be scared if Mike is offering you a trade, because take a look at what he's done, across all of our leagues. He really knows what he's doing on the trade block. As I said, 133 to 130 there. Coming down to our fifth matchup, we have Sammy Yanks. He had things starting off nicely with Saquon scoring 18 points on Thursday. Prius, a little bit more of a disappointing Thursday with Dak only putting up, Dak Prescott there, only 7 points for him. Not exactly what you want out of your QB1, but Sunday, we saw the secret to Sammy Yank's success. Lamar put up 29, CMC put up 23. That's going to get you pretty much where you need to go. Solid 13 from Drake London and 14 from Tyler Warren, and Michael Penix with 24. That is one to keep an eye on. If he is really cooking, could make Sammy Yanks, obviously a pretty serious threat between him and Lamar. And CMC, some people are saying he's absorbing the life force from Brock Purdy and what's the other guy's name now? Of course I can't remember, but he's absorbing their life force to stay healthy. I'm sure Sammy wouldn't be upset if we see that from CMC. He is always if he's healthy, he's one of the best. And it's a little bit of a gamble there, but certainly saw it in the first week. And just a little bit of a disappointing Sunday on Prius's side. Nothing catastrophic, but 12 from Jonathan Taylor, 14 from Bucky Irving, 12 from Malik Neighbors, 13 from Sam Laporta. a solid one here is 17 from Jacoby Myers, which I don't think we're expecting. Actually, a little bit of an interesting twist where Myers was started in that super flex spot. I know, we talk about that so much as sort of the second quarterback spot. It is a super flex spot, and there are times when, especially, considering the sort of some of the lower end QBs with, our league, 24 of them being taken, obviously everyone having 2, like there are times when, a receiver or a running back in the right matchup is going to do well. And Jacoby Myers, has scored pretty solidly here with 17 points, but, Sammy's going to be a problem in this league. We're seeing it early on. He racked up 155.28 points. That is nothing to sneeze at. Would have beat out anybody. Maybe fortuitously for Flaming Prius, he scored the lowest in the league. So, hey, we always say this, if you're going to have your lowest scoring week, do it against the guy who scored the most points, and he certainly did, just 104.02, over on Flaming Prius' side. So, a little bit of a disappointing week for him there, but he'll certainly be looking to bounce back in our second week. And Sammy, I think we are all seeing what he can be. Lamar, CMC, Saquon, and then if Michael Penix continues to look like he did in this first week, might be a little bit of a short season. Let's just say that. And finally, we will slide down to our 6th matchup. It was my matchup, Zangarang versus Rangers Cowboys. A little bit of a disappointing start with just 6 points from the newly acquired George Pickens on Thursday for Rangers Cowboys. But a nice Friday for him when we saw Mahomes rack up 26 and Kelsey with 12 points. That is likely to be, I think they call it stacking in fantasy football, when you have sort of like the quarterback and then their kind of number one guy that they throw to, and that is sure to be a pretty solid stack for Rangers Cowboys here this season. They did nicely there, although obviously in their loss to the Chargers. But it was on Sunday when we saw most of the action. All my guys went on Sunday. Drake May there just put up 16 points. Definitely hoping for a little more from him. And Dalton Kincaid with 14. Solid for a tight end, not spectacular. Baker Mayfield, the ever-consistent 22. Broncos defense, I drafted them high. A lot of people, had their questions about that, which is totally fair. But they did rack up 16 points for me, which is, a pretty solid performance. Over on Rangers Cowboys side, Josh Jacobs put up 14. Breece Hall, a little twist in the knife when I drafted him second overall, and he shit the bed for me all last year. Put up a nice 16 for Rangers Cowboys and 22 from Garrett Wilson. It looked like Rangers had it in the bag. And then this guy named Derrick Henry came to play, and he racked up 29 points on my side to narrowly eke out the win for me. This was about as close as it gets, 121.86 to 119.94. That's just over a point separating the two of us when you get down to the decimals. That's not a lot, but in the end, ball don't lie. Not expecting all that from Derrick Henry, but boy, that I was in the middle of something that night, wasn't able to check, and I thought, boy, it's over. Here we go again, and then come back to see Henry put up those 29 and get me that comeback win. That was pretty satisfying, and I was certainly looking forward to, getting to recap that on the pod here. So that does have me taking the win in the first week and Rangers taking the loss. So we will now slide down to the standing segment that we mentioned. Obviously, not a lot that we're gleaning from this week. Like I said, teams are 1-0 or they're 0-1. I believe that the, and Ace can correct me on this, obviously as a commission, he'll have, better knowledge of what we're talking about, but I believe the first tiebreaker is total points. So, that kind of determines the seeding, or the order within your tier of people with the same record as you. In first place is Sammy, as we mentioned, our highest scorer. Al Martinet taking second place with Mike in third. Bose is in fourth place, and then Zang in fifth with Okie Sooner, our last team at 1-0 in sixth place. Down to our 0-1 teams. We have KJ Lee leading the teams that are 0-1. JMC in 8th place. Anna in 9th. Rangers in 10th. As I mentioned, Ace Garcia there in 11th place. And Flaming Priya certainly lending cadence to the... lending credence, that's the saying. Hey, it's the end of a workday. What are you going to do? Lending credence to what I'm saying about it, probably being point differential, total points. As I said, of course, Flaming Prius lowest score this week, and he is at the bottom. So looks like that's where we are. We'll check in next week, and it gets interesting as soon as the second week comes around. We have a little bit more spread and everything within there. We're going to slide now down to our team of the week. As I mentioned, this is every spot on the roster. Let me know if that interests you, or if you're more just kind of interested in, who is the best quarterback, who's the best running back, who's the best tight end, kicker, defense. Just sort of the positions, or if it's really, if you're building the peak roster of guys for the week, who is it? I don't know. Let us know what you think in the Discord. As Ace always so perfectly says, we do this for you guys. We have a lot of fun doing it, but ultimately it's about providing something for you. So let us know what you think. Definitely, your feedback is always appreciated, because we want to make the best product for you. So leading things off with our quarterback, obviously not only the leading quarterback here, but the leading scorer of the week. It was Josh Allen playing on JMC's team. He scored 38.76 points. Our lead running back, the hero of my matchup, Derrick Henry, scoring 29.2 points. Bijan Robinson was our next highest scoring running back. Again, this is only running backs who did actually play in their matchup. So we'll get down to a few names later who certainly outscored Bijan, but if they were on the bench, their points don't count towards team of the week. Bijan, like I said, is on KJ's team. 24.4 points for him. Zay Flowers, who we mentioned earlier for Al Martinet, 28.1. He was our top wide receiver, with Puka, the next most valuable wide receiver. Again, in terms of team players who started, just going to say that a few times early on as we get there. But yeah, Puka with 23.1 for Okie Sooner, really solid. Brock Bowers with 15.3 was our best tight end. I got to see him kind of, take it to the Patriots. That wasn't a lot of fun, but he did look good. Well deserved. In terms of flex, we've got CMC, Christian McCaffrey there with 23.2 points on Sammy Yank's team. For the super flex, Mike had Justin Fields representing here with 29.92. Damn impressive. Again, Justin Fields. Just got to get the guy out of Chicago, I guess. And here we are. Who's to say? Here we are. But no. Justin Fields, very nice. And I'm sure the Jets will find some way to screw that up. So moving on, Chris Boswell with 15 points for Anna was our best kicker of the week, Pittsburgh's kicker. And as I mentioned, Denver Broncos defense was the best defense of the week with 16 points. So, hey, high draft pick paying off early, certainly there. And that is our team of the week. We're going to move down now to bench blunders. So again, these are the highest scoring player on the bench. In some instances, I'll actually list two guys, and it'll kind of depend on the situation. We'll list two guys. We might talk about them. Obviously, these are not, a computer spitting this stuff out. We're doing this for fun. So, and early on, I do just want to say, blunders is kind of a heavy term. There's one. I'll jump down to number 10 right now. Rangers Cowboys. Harold Fannin, the tight end, scored 13.6. It's not a blunder to start Travis Kelce over him. That's just not a mistake. Did Fannin score more points? Yes, but not really a mistake. So this is just sort of, in general, the biggest numbers there. We'll start off with Ace, which I believe was, not our biggest, but our second biggest. Quentin Johnson, and this one's going to hurt a little bit extra because, of course, it was one of his hometown guys, a Charger. He scored 24.9 points, did the wide receiver on Ace's bench. Al Martinet had Trey Benson, the running back, just 8.5. So, nothing too serious there. In general, just to give some context behind how these spreadsheets are typically made, it's typically if a guy scores over 10 points, we're going to put him sort of on the matchup highlight. So if you're below 10 points, I especially really don't consider this a blunder. Same thing here with Anna and Travis Hunter, who did put up 9.3. Unspectacular, but solid outing for the rookie. Keon Coleman for Bose, another tough one where, guy from your favorite team, and even a little bit tougher here because the wide receiver put up 25.2 points. That was the highest total points left on the bench by one player. So hard to imagine that Coleman won't be there for Bose next week. But boy, wide receivers can be a little bit a little bit more hit or miss there. So we'll see how that all goes. Flaming Prius had Dylan Sampson, Cleveland's running back, on his bench for 17.3. JMC with Jaden Reed putting up 13.5. KJ Lee with Cedric Tillman, another wide receiver, with 16.2. Mike, despite his fantastic week, did have Michael Pittman put up 20 points on his bench, just showing how much crazier things could have even been. Okie Sooner pulled out a win, so hey, we can't complain too much, but 22.6 from Deebo Samuel and 20 from Javonte Williams. That is a lot of points. 42.6 points left on the bench just with those two highest scoring guys alone. So, Okie certainly, you could look at it a couple ways. He's got a lot of talent and, you can't go wrong, or, boy, he's got a lot of talent and he's really got to pick the right guys. We did, of course, mention Harold Fannin for Rangers Cowboys. Starting him over Kelsey would not have made a difference in the matchup. What would have made a difference is Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver, who did put up 11.6 points. And again, can you call this a blunder? Probably not. But he did well outscore George Pickens, who, again, you're not going to start him over Pickens, but the difference would have been enough for Rangers to win the matchup. So you kind of have to shout that out. Another one where in a super high scoring matchup, Sammy, despite scoring, over 150 points, Emka Egbuka, and again, I'm going to butcher these names. Please help me. I want to get these guys' names right. I really try. The wide receiver, 23.6 points left on his bench. That's a lot, so it could have been even more impressive for Sammy there. And then down on my team, Kamibi Fairbairn did put up 14 points, would have outscored my kicker, and just, improved that gap just a little bit. There was a point where it was looking like that might have made up my loss, and that hurt quite a bit, but thank you, King Henry, for saving me from that disgrace. Those are our bench blunders for this week. We will slide down to wasted waivers again, just to look at the guys who were kind of left on waivers, and, maybe if you're looking for a pickup in this coming week, somebody you can look to. Our number 3 spot goes to Spencer Schrader, Indianapolis's kicker, who scored 16 points. Really solid from him there. If I'm not mistaken, that actually would have outscored the best kicker that was, active and scored points, with 15 for Chris Boswell. So solid from Schrader. We'll see what he does this coming week. Calvin Austin, Pittsburgh's wide receiver, did put up 17 points. So again, not a star wide receiver 1 performance there, but depth guy certainly for a wide receiver 2 or even flex could be solid there. And then Daniel Jones. This is the interesting one. Daniel Jones, Indianapolis's quarterback, put up 29.48. How repeatable that is, we don't know. We will find out, I think, a lot over the next week or two, but that is a lot. He was one of the top quarterbacks in the league this week and was left on waivers. Are you really going to risk it on Daniel Jones? I don't know. Something to keep an eye on, though. And finally, we will slide down to next week's notes as we preview the upcoming matchups that in some cases have already started. Matchup number 1 is Mike versus Sammy Yanks. Sammy does have a 58% advantage over Mike here. Sammy, of course, in first place, and Mike in third place. Both of them are 1-0, so we're going to see one team take their first loss in this one. KJ versus Flaming Prius. We have the inverse. 2 teams who are 0-1, so someone's got to get their first win. In this case, KJ Lee is projected to lose, although very narrowly. Flaming Prius has a 51% chance to win over KJ there, so definitely an interesting one to keep an eye on. Rangers Cowboys looking to redeem himself against Anna Kendrick this week. Rangers, of course, as we mentioned, 0-1. Anna also 0-1. One of these teams is going to get their first win this week. And Rangers is projected pretty highly, 58% over Anna Kendrick. We'll see how that goes. Our next one is Zang versus Bose. And I'll tell you what, the projections seem to think that last week was a fluke because it has Bose 62% over me. That does sound right looking at our rosters. Bose definitely looks like he is in a better position. So we will, I would have to say, likely see this. Bose and I both 1-0. So as we said, one of us will get our first loss this week. It's funny, we haven't had any cross, 1-0 or 0-1. When we do come down to Al Martinet versus Okie Sooner, that will be the case as well. Neither one of those took a lot. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Fascinating. Okay. All the games this week have the same record. So we're going to see a lot of mixed-up records, and I really like that. That's great. Al Martinet is projected to lose this matchup pretty significantly. 68% for Oki projected over him. A little bit surprising given Al Martinet's really impressive performance. 142 points. He was the second highest scorer this week, but you never know. The fantasy projection gods don't lie, except when they do, which is a lot of the time. But of course, the one I'm really excited to highlight here is Ace versus JMC. Again, both of those teams looking for their first win. It is projected at a dead 50-50. So they really have it as a toss-up. We'll have to see how things go here. Of course, Ace and I are looking forward to recapping how all of these things go with you all. Again, this was just a little primer episode. Wanted to get the first week in there, but we will be back likely on Tuesday night with Ace taking over his quarterbacking duties, rightfully so, on this show. We're looking forward to this. It's been a ton of fun on the baseball side, and we hope it can be the same thing over here. So for this week, that is me, signing off.
When you come out in NFL lollygagging and, not going through the motions, that kind of what happens.